And yes, we are live. I'm here with M.
Hi.
M, very nice to see your face finally. It's been years we've been back and forth talking and planning to do a live stream. I've kind of badgered you and hounded you, chased you down, and so here you are.
Yeah, I did agree a couple times and then backed out. And yeah, but I just felt like the time was right.
Nice, excellent. So, you know how I do my interviews? I just ask my guests to go back in time to talk about your childhood and tell us everything you're comfortable telling us about your faith journey. What was it like growing up with the parents and any siblings you have? And so I'm excited to hear your story. Go for it.
Yeah. So I was born an only child. I wasn't really, I was raised religious, but not really pushed upon me. I was baptized Methodist at a young age. We went to church on Easter, on Christmas Eve, things like that. Never really forced to. I think it was definitely something I was excited about as a kid. And then it just kind of fell off. My parents definitely are religious. They believe in something, but they're more, I guess you'd say, conservative. Definitely taught me the values of you work for what you have, just morals, be a good person, the basics, things like that, I guess, over religion. But religion was always there in my life. It wasn't until I found a friend in sixth grade, I think it was, who introduced me to her youth group. They were Lutheran, I guess, but it was a Lutheran youth group, and I became super involved in that. We went on, missions, outings, things like that. It was really fun, and I think I just felt connected there. I've always known there was something out there. I've definitely always believed in God. As far as putting a label on it, I've never done that quite so much, but yes, I've always definitely, known there was something there greater than myself. And to me, that's God.
And what about yes, you're the only child, but what about cousins? Like, do you have cousins and stuff like that? Do you have lots of aunts
I
and
do.
uncles?
Yeah, I do. They're actually Catholic, very interestingly enough. Yeah.
Ah,
So I don't know.
oh.
I've never really asked my mom why, her sisters are. And so I've never really asked her why she's not. But I
Ah.
think that might play a part in why I'm so interested in it, the Catholic religion.
Oh, wow. What about your dad's side, though?
They're not Catholic, they're just religious, you know.
Okay. And are you comfortable telling us where you are geographically, roughly?
In the United States, in Colorado.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Ah, I'm going to be going to Colorado for my sister's wedding
Oh, cool.
in the fall. She's in Boulder. Have you been to Boulder?
I have a couple times. Yeah, that's a little north of me. So
It's pretty squeaky clean, not really my scene, but
yeah,
she likes it. So,
it's not bad. It's a pretty place, but I probably wouldn't live there myself.
yeah, good for postcards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But no offense to anyone who lives there. I'm sure it's lovely, but a little bit too lovely for me. So,
Yeah.
so it's uncomfortable talking about the dark side, but what would you say was your darkest moment in terms of spirituality, where you were angry and cursing the day you were born, all these sorts of things? We all go through that. Or maybe rebellion, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's the common term I use. Just if you're comfortable talking about the dark side, did you ever become an atheist, or like what was the darkest you ever got?
Yeah, I've had some times definitely in my life, some big times. But even through those times, I guess I'll get into it a little deeper, but I guess I'll preface it by saying people used to tell me all the time, well, if these things are happening to me, where's God? Why is he not here with me? I've kind of always found fault in that idea. I've never no, I've never been atheist or whatever, but I've never fallen into that belief, even in my darkest times, well, obviously God hates me or something. I actually had a traumatic brain injury from a boyfriend that I was with it was early 2016. He was very abusive, and he assaulted me, I guess. I won't go much into it, but he assaulted me. He went to prison for that, and I went to the ICU with a traumatic brain injury. I kind of see my life before that incident and after. I found you after that incident because I became really, once I was on my healing journey after that, I became really into spirituality and why I am still here. But throughout all that, I never blamed God. In fact, I think it almost made it stronger, the fact that I am still here today through that.
Wow. So I guess it's safe to say you're not in contact with that guy. Or
No, 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 no. Yeah, I mean, we have a restraining order and everything, but no.
he's not going to repent, or if he does, that's his own trip. That's his own trip, and we'll just pray for him from a distance. He's not welcome around you.
Yeah, I
So,
think, right after that happened, people were like, you should be so angry with him. I can't believe I would go beat him up, things like that. Honestly, to me, I spent a lot of time on an inner journey, kind of forgiving him in a way from afar, because for somebody to have that amount of hate for somebody that loved them and, was there for them for 5 years, to have that amount of hate, must have been really painful for them.
it's really a dark, heavy topic, but a lot of the time it has to do with the man and his sexual desire and his fantasies, disconnection from reality, and just a sort of, an obsession with this world that men create in their minds.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, I know you don't know this guy's soul, you don't know exactly what's going on, but was there any indication that he was like into porn and these sorts of things, or?
Yeah, I mean, I worked the whole time we were together and he never had a job. I knew that probably was hard for him. There were definitely red flags. Um, yeah, there were red flags, I
No,
guess.
no history of. We'll get off this topic, but no history with other. You haven't met his exes and stuff like that, and
Well,
commiserated.
he actually, it's funny because going into it, I haven't met his exes, but he did have a previous domestic assault thing.
Oh,
So yeah, and I guess
oh,
that goes back to me, with my mom always says, and I don't blame her, but she always says, well, yeah, you can't really cry that happened because we all knew it was going to happen. You chose
oh,
to be there.
oh. Yeah, yeah. There's a show my wife and I watch. It's called Evil Lives Here. I don't know if you've seen it,
Mm-mm.
but their catchphrase is "There were signs." Like, so, the victim, the whole story is always the same story. It's like the victim is innocent, and the bad guy, usually it's a male,
Yeah.
is either hiding it more or less, hiding his evil inclinations. Is usually tied up with sexual stuff, but there are always signs. Looking back in retrospect, there are always signs like, "Oh, I should have recognized this sign. I should have recognized that sign. I should have,
Yeah.
and I shouldn't have forgiven him for this and for that." And so that's very tragic. I can't say that I've lived through anything like that, so I can't really, I'm not one to start giving you advice or anything. That's for sure, or chastising you. But one thing I know is that Satan loves to fool us, and with men, we're vulnerable to, the beauty of a woman, the charm of a woman, sex, the pleasure of sex, and these sorts of things are very, very powerful. So I think that usually plays a role. But there are other factors, like you said, like he may have had low self-esteem and just low self-worth, and maybe jealous and insecure, and who knows? God only knows. But yeah, it's a horrible, horrible situation. But this really makes you think about the mercy of God and the justice of God, and a lot of the justice that we want in this life. We can feel disappointment, and we can be angry and frustrated, but the fact of the matter is that justice is coming, and I hope the man repents. I hope that man repents, and I hope all criminals repent, and I hope all sinners repent, because the justice of God is not to be laughed at. It's very, very severe, and if you contemplate hell, you will never curse anyone to hell.
Right.
I'm always shocked when Christians curse each other to hell, like, oh, go to hell or whatever, even if they say it lightly, because the justice of God is no laughing matter. It's very, very serious, and it's eternal. And so that will bring you, that will soften your heart against any perpetrator, anyone that's victimized you. That will really soften your heart contemplating hell, the severe justice of God. And so you can find it in your heart to forgive, not just you, I'm talking about everyone generally, but yeah, it's Saint Alphonsus Liguori is one of my favorite saints, and he says the thing we should fear most about God is his patience, because he's just storing up his judgment, storing up his judgment. And the funny thing is, like that story of the 11th hour worker that got paid the same salary as the other guys that worked 12 hours in the sun, he will, if you repent, he will forgive and he will forget. And this guy who abused you, he hopefully will repent and he'll be up there in heaven with us, even though he may have entered at the 11th hour and we've been struggling a little bit longer. Now, I came in late in life, but so anyway, enough about that. Let's talk about the beauty of religion and the goodness of God. We just touched on the goodness of God here now, but what if someone were to ask you, if an atheist were to ask you, why are you in love with this God that I, as an atheist, don't think even exists? Why are you in love with him? What would you say?
He gave me the first gift I was ever given, and you could argue the best one, which is the gift of life.
Excellent point. Yeah, that's the first principle, the principle of life. So when you think about Christianity over against the other religions, why do you only fall into Christianity by default because you're in a Christian family, part of a Christian culture, part of a Christian nation, or have you actually thought about Christianity versus the other religions and come to a conclusion that it's true? It's not just convenient; it's actually true.
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, after the assault, I had a lot of time to do soul searching and things like that. I really looked over my life and what I had done and who I was, things like that. And I really got into religion and a lot of spirituality stuff. It's where I found you through Diabolically Informative, I think, because I had been, if I'm not mistaken, I think I had been following this guy Morg on.
Oh, no way.
Oh, yeah. Like right after the assault, I got into Morgan. He doesn't preach Christian principles, I guess.
No.
But I just kind of found, I even got into the Law of One. I was reading a bunch of stuff, comparative religion, I guess you could call it, to just kind of figure it out. And I guess to make a long story short, I'm still Christian today. I don't know. Yeah, I don't have some brilliant answer or I just am. I can't. And I'm definitely interested in Catholicism. I know I don't, I'm not a Catholic, but for some reason I just keep coming back to these things after everything I've tried to research and debunk and, so.
If you were to meet, let's say you were to have a dream tonight and Christ came to you in your dream, and whether it's real or not, you don't know, but Christ comes to you in a dream tonight and he asks you, do you love me? And, you say yes. And then the next day when you think about your dream, would you understand why you said yes when Christ asked you if you love him? Would you understand why? Would you be able to tell a friend why you love Jesus?
I believe I would. Yeah, I believe I would. I think there's two parts to that. I kind of struggled with coming onto the podcast because at one point I didn't feel like it was my place to say. I mean, I can have love for Jesus and I can, but is it my place to use the words that I know to convey that? Because I know that it wouldn't even do justice to the love that he shows me. The second part, if you don't mind, this sounds kind of weird, but I have to say it. So after, a couple days after I was out of the hospital, I had a very vivid dream, very vivid. And I will remember it forever. I was walking down this kind of hallway thing, and it was like, there was two things on the side of me. On the right, there was a factory of just like people going down the line that looked the same. And on the left, there was a curtain, a black curtain. I couldn't see what was there. And I kind of kept walking, and Um, Past the black curtain, there was like a little bed. So I laid down and I don't know. It's just so vivid. And it kind of reminded me of that. But I laid down on this bed and like just, I don't know. Again, words can't do it justice, but I feel like that was God saying that he loves me. I was kind of not, definitely not brought back, but that I was given a chance at life. Um, and it's hard to describe that to people that don't believe.
Wow. So I'm just wondering now if the factory was sort of the busyness of the world and that the curtain was the mystical and that other realm, the vertical realm. Is that how you saw it, or?
Well, so I ended up laying, I mean, there's more. I ended up laying down and I floated out. This sounds so weird and kind of cliche to
It's
a
a
point, but
dream, though. It's a dream. We know we know how dreams work. Yeah, it's
I
crazy
floated
stuff.
out. I mean, okay, so wow, okay, so before I laid on the bed, I tried to climb up and somebody told me you can't come up here. That was a very, very, very vivid point for me. I tried to go up and somebody just said you can't come up here. So then I laid on the bed and kind of like floated above myself. Not like a whatever they call it, one of those dreams where you're like out of body, but I saw that in the dream. And I think to me that meant a lot. Like it wasn't my time. And if that's not God's love to me, I don't know how else to describe it. But of
Wow.
course, I'm not going to go around telling every person I see on the street this dream.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I wonder, did you feel like you wanted to go up? I mean, I'm imagining that's up to heaven, but did you desire that, but you were told it's not your time, or is that the sort of the sense you got from that?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is. Because again, I don't think that what happened was a bad thing. I'm very thankful. I mean, that was 2016. I've had so many other life experiences and chances to live and love that I don't look at that whole time as, I guess I'll just say that everything that's happened so far definitely made me who I am today. And I can't have that without God.
Are you 100% healthy and recovered now, or no?
Yeah, I mean, and I'm very lucky with a traumatic brain injury. I mean, I, I didn't lose any of my cognitive functions. Some of my short-term, you know, math memory kind of was shaky there for a bit, but I was very grateful that I'm, recovered.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. So, do you mind if I ask what kind of work you've been doing your whole life? Different kinds of jobs you've had?
Well, serving mostly. Right now, I work in paint, so kind of just, I guess you would call it, I don't know, menial, but it's,
Interesting. Well, my wife's a painter, so she works with paint too,
yeah,
doing
that's awesome.
artistic stuff. You've seen the little paintings I've shown you. But
Yeah.
so wow, it sounds like you're open to the mystical, which is it's a big aspect. Not everyone focuses on it in the Catholic Church, but it's a very major aspect of the Catholic faith, if that's your inclination. And
Mhm.
there's some people who argue that you have to eventually, or at some point, or in some way, you have to connect to the mystical realm because that's where God and heaven and that's where everything is. So, I mean, there are other people that are very pragmatic and practical minded who are focused on, you know, uh, missionary work or maybe intellectual work within the church and these sorts of things, or just selfless service. But there are many ways to be mystical too. That's the other thing. But to have that predisposition, I think helps. Like the veil that separates these two worlds is thin for you and for me. I think I'm also I'm prone to dreaming, and I've had dreams that I think may be more than dreams, and like your dream may be more than a dream, and we don't know for sure, but you feel like it is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It gets into the kind of philosophical realm. I probably spend way too much time thinking about the philosophical realm and the mystical and the spiritual and what if these things that we see aren't even real. Yeah, like you said, there's a thin line between believing, I mean, and getting way too into the what could be. But I do think they go hand in hand. You can't really have one without the other.
Yeah, well, I mean, the image that I have of myself in my relationship with my wife, this is the image she came up with. Is I'm like a balloon, hot air balloon, or like a helium balloon, and she's like this weight that's keeping the balloon tied to a string. It's keeping it on the earth. Otherwise, I would just float off and be like gone, you know.
Yeah.
And that's how she sees me. So she grounds me. She's very practical. She's very down to earth, and she's not tripping out on thoughts and philosophy and you know, religion, stuff like that. So I have that counterbalance. Are you, not that you need that, but are you interested in finding another man? Have you found another man? Are you interested?
Yeah, no, I'm dating, and
Okay,
he's great right now. Yeah,
nice.
I actually met him at work, but he's great. I'll say that.
And
So
is he that counterbalance to you to give a grounding influence in some ways, or?
he is. He is. I think what was the most grounding to me was, I really spent a lot of time in that, spiritual, metaphysical kind of realm, thinking about what is. I spent way too much time, didn't have a job, and ended up kind of my whole life went in a certain path. I became homeless for a little bit. And to me, I think that was my grounding more than anything. I can definitely lean on people, but that kind of brought me back down to reality, I guess,
Wow.
if
Yeah.
because then I wanted to make, I knew that wasn't the life I needed to live. And it kind of grounded me to be more realistic, but also continue the path that God wants for me and that I know I can do.
Wow. Well, remember St. Paul, what he says in one of his letters about, you know, the shipwrecks, the beatings, and all these sorts of things. And that's one of my favorite moments in the New Testament. Just looking at his life in overview and what he was willing to suffer and how steadfast he was in his faith. And yes, he asked God to remove the thorn from his side. He asked 3 times. And we ask God to help us out of situations that are painful and awkward. But the answer that he got from God was that God said, "My grace is sufficient for you." So I guess that's why they call it faith, and that's why we see through a glass darkly, and it's not in this fallen world. We're not going to have the clarity that we maybe crave, and we're not going to have the comfort maybe that we want to have. Although I certainly do. I'm like erring on the side of pampering myself. Like that's what I always do. I just like cater to my needs. Like I'm hungry, so I eat, and I'm tired, so I sleep, and just like totally pampering myself, totally all the time. You know, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Not what the saints did. That's not what the saints did. but,
Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
but that's what
Good
I
point.
do.
Good point.
But
Yeah.
anyway, so what I'm driving at here is you got more of that Saint Paul in you, where you're able to like struggle and suffer, and you know, you went through some pretty
That's a
rough stuff.
compliment, I
Yeah,
think. Thank you.
yeah, for sure, for sure. I admire anyone that suffers and comes out the other side with faith. So, but I'm happy that you're in a very stable situation, stable relationship, and I'm sure your family and friends are happy too. Do you have the same set of friends that you had before, or have they changed because of everything you've gone through?
Yeah, I mean, they've definitely changed. I was into some things back then that they wouldn't be around for. Really, I just work. It sounds, I work and I do some studying for sure. I do some writing. But to me, it may seem like a boring life, but gosh, I'm struggling to find the right word. It's a rest I think I needed after so many years of just struggles. But they were all, wow. They were definitely all necessary for me. And so I'm thankful for this time of rest. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of friends. I'll say that. I don't go out a lot like
Yeah.
I used to, but I'm just happy with it. I'm perfectly fine.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. Well, it's part of I don't want to be dark, but it's part of the aging process. I know you don't want to hear that as a woman.
I'm not that old, but yeah, no,
But
you're right.
I just turned 53 yesterday. So
Oh my gosh.
my wife took me out, and she's planned the day for us, you know, and we don't often do this. Like we just like to hang around at home and just chill, you know. But
Yeah.
she said it's your birthday, so we're gonna do this and that. And we went out and had fish and chips, and then we went to Chinatown, and then she took me to an Irish pub because she knows I'm like Scottish Irish heritage, and she's Greek, but and she really loves the Irish culture with the pubs and all that. So we went to a nice pub, very authentic here in Montreal, and then there was live music there and everything, and then we went to see some friends. But I can tell you, like, a funny little anecdote about what it is getting older, because she met up with a friend of hers, and they get along really well, but I just don't have that friendship with this particular girl. I'm a nice girl, whatever, but it's more their friendship. So
Yeah.
when the two of them met up, I saw that they were, vibing together. And another one of our plans fell through, what we were going to do as part of my birthday day. So I just sort of said, well, how about I just go home now? Because, I basically had enough fun for one day, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
my friend, not my friend, my wife's friend made a funny observation. She said, after I left, she said to Anna, my wife, she said, "Oh, did you see how David's face lit up when he said he was going home?" Because basically, and I made a joke to my wife that it was basically the highlight of my day is when I got to go home. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Because it's like that's what it's like for me. I just want to be alone. I want to be quiet. I want to do my thing. And it's like there's this company, Burt's Bees. They make
Oh yeah.
they make
Yeah.
lip stuff. It's my favorite lip stuff. I have chronically dry lips. But he had a funny observation that he made in the documentary about him, where he said that because people always used to come and find him where he lives in the country and just ask him questions and talk to him and whatever, take pictures with him. And he said it's a good day when no one comes to visit. So that's kind of like the idea that I have of what is paradise. It's just like peace, no one phones, no one comes to visit, and I'm just, so all of that to say that, if you watched my life before, I was traveling around with my wife and doing all this crazy stuff and meeting people, and it was just go, 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 go craziness. But now it's the opposite, and I kind of prefer it,
Yeah.
the quiet life, the contemplative life.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not, being reclusive, you can use it to get closer to God too, but creature comforts, and I don't think God would be displeased with that if we spend a little time with ourselves.
Yeah. I think about Saint Teresa of, was it Teresa of Avila or Teresa the Little Flower, who said, whatever you do, do it with love. And if you have to pick something up off the floor, like a pin, she says, if you have to pick a pin up off the floor, do it with love of Jesus. And that's worth more than 10 rosaries,
Yeah.
Well, if you're doing a rosary with love, I guess it's worth a lot too. But what is your prayer life like? I know that you reach out to God to thank him and to tell him that you love him, but do you also ask him for stuff? And do you tell him that you're sorry for your weaknesses and stuff like that? What is your prayer life like?
Yeah, layly I haven't, I guess, been as good about prayer. It's, I still do thank him at night, but I don't ask him for much. I have pretty much everything. If anything, I'd ask him for strength. I will say I was a little nervous before coming on this podcast finally, but I asked him just to help me be myself and be with me, and it'll all go okay. It'll be
Yeah,
fine.
for sure. Just be yourself, and you're doing an excellent job. Speaking of being a guest on the podcast, looking back, what are some of the, I'm putting you on the spot here a little bit, but what are some of the highlights in terms of guests where you thought, wow, this was an interesting guest, or I have sympathy for this person, or they managed to articulate something that you had been trying to put into words, or was there someone that you just thought was funny? Looking back, I've had some pretty interesting guests. So are there some that stand out to you that you thought were favorites over the years?
Well, of course, diabolically informative. I mean, that interview right there, just every word resonated with me at that time, and it's how I found you.
Yeah.
I like a lot of I can't think of them, of course, by name, unfortunately, but a lot of your interviews with fellow Catholics
Okay.
help me. Because, of course, I'm not a Catholic, but I'm very interested, if that's okay. I don't,
Of course.
I don't know if I'm overstepping things or trying to, but it helps me just to hear the banter, the friendly banter between you and you two. And I take notes and things like that.
Well, what are some of the things that I say or that I discuss with other Catholics where you think, oh, I like Catholicism, but that one part that David talked about, I don't really like his approach to it. Are there some cringe moments where I talk about some of the dogmas or some of the aspects of the faith from my perspective? Maybe I'm wrong, okay, but you think, oh, I don't like when he goes down that path. Are there some uncomfortable parts of the Catholicism for you?
The only thing I can think of is when, not being a Catholic, being baptized Methodist, I can't think of an example, but there are some things that you say that are, that is true, I guess, about Catholicism, that it kind of is exclusionary.
Yeah.
Exclusionary is not the right word, but not being a Catholic, it's kind of, I do feel like an outsider almost with some of the things that you say.
Yeah.
Which again is not, I don't mean to say that you're saying something wrong, but everything sounds great with the rosaries and but
yeah, well, you've heard me talk with Protestants, some that are very friendly towards Catholicism, some that are antagonistic towards Catholicism. But I'm very honest. I'm very honest. I may not communicate perfectly well what my attitude is, but I do have a good attitude toward non-Catholics. And the attitude is that we're all in the same boat, basically. Like, we're all a work in progress. We're all trying to figure it out. And I often say, and I do believe it, that, the Protestants that I interact with, I tell them that they're better Christians than I am. And it's not just to flatter them. It's because I'm not a very good Christian, So when I brag about Jesus Christ and the church that Christ built, which is the Catholic Church, I boast and I brag about that it's the only way and you have to get in. It's not because I'm better than you at all. I try to make that clear. I think it's clear. But it's because Christ is better and the church that Christ built is better, and Christ only built one church. He didn't build 30,000 churches. So I know it's hard to walk away from some of the things that I say. It's hard to take away from some of the things I say, the balanced overall intention that I have, because it can be shocking language. But I want you to know, at least, since it's something you brought up, I want you to know that even the atheist, even the pedophile, even your ex that beat the crap out of you, he is a child of God. Christ died for him, and there's hope for him. And the hope is not that he becomes Methodist. The hope is that he finds Christ and falls in love with Christ, and that in itself is bringing him into the Church of Christ, which is not the Methodist Church, it's not the Lutheran Church, it's not the Mormons, it's not the Scientologists, it's the Catholic Church. That's the church. So this is not to say that I'm better than anyone else. It's just to say that I want everyone to go to Christ, and to go to Christ is to become a Catholic. Now, like I always emphasize, it might be at your last breath on your deathbed that you say yes to the Pope and to the Marian dogmas and all these sorts of things. And it really is just icing on the cake. It's just dotting the I's and crossing the T's at that point. Because the main thing is, do you love God? Are you trying to serve God? And it's going to be very easy. It's going to be very easy to cross the Tiber when the time comes, and there's no rush and there's no pressure, certainly. And there's enough corruption and nonsense in the Catholic Church to justify anyone to stay away and to to sort of hate the church, to hate what they think the church is based on the impression that's given by the bad examples. Myself, first and foremost, as a bad example of what a Catholic is. So I hope I've done a good job here of explaining to you that there's no ill will towards non-Catholics of any kind, and that everyone's welcome, and that if you're pursuing the good, if you're pursuing the true, if you love God and you're striving to please God, then that's it, But you're on your way. But you're on your way into which church? That's the question. It's a technical question, really. It's an academic question, really, because we have to be like children to enter the kingdom of heaven, and the children aren't going to be doing checklists of like theological exams. Children are going to be loving. They're just going to be loving. That's it.
Yeah.
So I hope that's clear.
Definitely. I don't think for what it's worth, I don't think you've done a bad job. I don't think you've ever scared anybody away. Really, truly. At least, I can only speak for myself. But at its basis. It's not anything you've said or anything. It takes a lot, I feel like. So as speaking as someone who's not a Catholic, looking outside, it takes a lot. Not to say that it's impossible.
Okay,
Or
you're saying it's
scary.
demanding. You're saying it's demanding to be Catholic. Is that what you're saying?
Well, again, I'm not an authority on it, but to be a Catholic, if I were to be a Catholic, I've had Catholics tell me, because I'm baptized Methodist and I've attended a Catholic mass and taken communion, that's a sin. And if that's the fact, then I guess I respect that and I feel bad. And
It's not a sin.
there's
It's
a
not a
lot.
sin. It's not a sin unless you did it thinking it was a sin. Like, I mean, if
No,
you
no,
know,
no, no.
it's like I interviewed my father, and he went to a Catholic mass with his Catholic friends or whatever, and he partook of the Eucharist, and it's, in my mind, it's like it was a mistake because he didn't know what he was doing. He shouldn't have done it. He should have been educated by the people around him not to do that. But he was not at fault. He did not sin. And I would say the same thing to you. Now, if you go there with an attitude of rebellion, and you're going to get away with something, and you know it's not permitted, and you whatever, yeah, sure, that would be a sin, but whatever. But that's not what you did. You were there, and you love God, and you were just doing what came naturally. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And Pope Francis, I think, is encouraging people to be less rigoristic and legalistic about communion. Now, technically, it's all about education. Like, do you know what's required of you, and all these sorts of things? But certainly, it's not a sin what you did, for sure, for sure, for sure. No way. And a lot of people are legalistic and rigoristic about the rules. They have the rule book, and this is what it means to be Catholic, and these are the rules, and whatever. And that's, like I just said, that's not what a little child does. What a little child does is vulnerable, authentic, open, and loving, and trusting. And yeah, so if you don't see that attitude of, like, a childlike attitude of wonder, awe, respect, and love, and from a Catholic, then just know that Catholic is jaded, worldly, and crusty, and just not perfect. And that's the norm. That's the norm. It's rare. It's very rare to meet a living saint. Like, you're gonna meet a living saint. It's very rare. Okay, so
Yeah.
we can expect most people in the pews to just be idiots, because we are idiots, not, present company excluded.
Yeah, I mean, that's reverence at its fact, its honesty. I think there does need to be rules, for sure, and I respect Catholicism for having these rules. It's sinning is easy, and I think, but being able to admit it and realize how you've done wrong, and strive to do better, that takes work, and I don't think Catholicism is too much work at all. I just, looking at it, it's, if I were to become a Catholic, I would want to be, I would want to do it right, I guess. And I think maybe that's why I haven't run out today and gone and done whatever, and again, I'm ignorant about what it might take to even become a Catholic, but there's no hesitation. It's just, I want to be able to be good enough.
Yeah. When I joined, I was really messed up. I'd just gone down a really dark rabbit hole, and I talked many, many times, too many times, about my Satanism, my solipsism, all these sorts of things. But when I came to the church, it was just like, I was a monotheist. I believed in God, I worshiped God, and I didn't believe in Christianity. But the Mass actually moved me, and just by providence, by divine providence, there was this Catholic monk who came into my work, and he showed me the Mass, and the Mass moved me, and I asked him if I could join, even though I don't believe in the doctrines of Christianity. And he said, sure, we'll educate you. And you've heard the story a million times from me. But my point is that I wasn't, I was also living a life that was full of all kinds of habitual sin. Like, I mean, just like, I won't go into details, but all kinds of stuff, including, okay, I'm not going to go into any details, but,
Yeah.
across the spectrum, all kinds of different stuff. Okay. So, I knew I got to clean up my act. Like, I mean, I was like preparing, I was getting educated. I was saying yes, yes, yes to the doctrines and to the teachings and to the lifestyle and everything. but I was still mired in sin and the habit of sin, and just bad ways of being and thinking, and situations that were like, I'm in a situation, like I work at this place and I can't be in this situation, and I can't, you know, so I had to, while I was entering the church, I was sort of trying to fix my situation and make everything legal and above board and make everything, uh, I don't want to be sinning. I can't be sinning, right? So all of this to say is that I took the plunge, even though I wasn't ready, and I just said, well, it's a work in progress. I'll just fix it as I go. So this is an example to you where maybe you take the plunge, and I'm not encouraging you because I'm Catholic and I want you to become Catholic. It's not about that. I'm just saying, with anything, it's like if you came to me and said, well, this guy that I'm dating, I'm not sure if I can commit, and he wants to get married, and I'm not sure because my hair isn't quite right and whatever. I'd be like, never mind about the hair. Don't worry about the hair. He loves you. He wants to marry you. Do it. Take the plunge, right? And then you can go to the hairdresser on your wedding day or whatever. Who cares? Yeah. But it's the same thing with the Christ and the church. It's like, you don't want to start saying, well, this situation's a bit off and doesn't quite work with being a Catholic. And never mind any of that. Like, Christ is asking you to marry him. Just say yes and just go for it, and then fix all that stuff up, because there's going to be plenty of time for that to get corrected, right? So that's my encouragement to you.
Well, thank you.
Take the plunge, and you can just fix it as you go. And you already know what needs to be fixed. Like if you have concerns like about yourself, like what you need to work on, it's going to be a lot easier to work on it with the sacraments. Like, I mean, I'm excited. I don't know if you've been to confession, but I don't know how that would work for a non-Catholic to go to confession. I'm not sure what you have to do, but I've always bragged about it on the show, like what a wonderful thing it is. I went today, and it's just wonderful. Like, I mean, especially for someone that's prone to psychological problems like me, it's got that psychological component where you unburden yourself, and it has the mystical component where God incarnate is there in the confessional, in the person of the priest. Jesus Christ is there in the person of the priest, like absolving you of your sin, and it's a mystical thing, and there's a psychological component, and it's just win, 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 win. So I really, really, really want you to have that. I want everyone to have that. I've talked about this so many times on my podcast. And what impression do you get when I talk about that, and especially with a Catholic guest where he's like, yeah, I went in after 20 years without going to confession and I've just unburdened myself. Does it get you excited?
Yeah. I mean, I think honesty is something, to me, it comes down to honesty. Honesty is always something that's going to heal. And if you're honest with yourself, that's great. But, you need to be honest with somebody else as well. You have to be honest with the people around you, and to be honest with somebody that can help, I guess. Well, because I can be honest to God. Yeah. He already knows, but yeah, and I'm not questioning you, I guess, or the religion, but what is that extra? How does that help? I don't mean to be rude, but how does having that extra? You would need to try to find out, but. Just take my word for it. Like, it is completely different. It is a completely different thing. Because, of course, before I went to confession today, I talked to God and I confessed my sins to God. Right? I did that. Yeah. Right? Okay. So I have that component that you have. Yeah. But I can tell you the difference between that and then going into the confessional booth and then coming out of the confessional booth. It's just like, this is how God instituted it. God, in his wisdom, he knows our human nature. He knows our psychology. He knows everything about us. He knows what we need, and he instituted that because that's what is best for us, and that's what we need. And it's night and day. Like, I mean, yes, I felt good this morning when I got on my knees and I asked God for forgiveness for my sins. I felt good. It felt good, but it didn't feel. I didn't feel that I was absolved, because I wasn't, right? I mean, if I had died on my way to the confessional, I would have been absolved. Okay, I would have been absolved because I had the intention of doing what God instituted for me to do. But I wasn't absolved. I didn't die on the way. I wasn't absolved until the priest absolved me.
So that's
Yeah.
just the way that God instituted it. And this is not to, again, this is not to say that non-Catholic Christians are not Christian. They are Christian. And they're getting graces and they're getting forgiveness and all these sorts of things. But it's not the same thing. It's not the same as being Catholic and going into the confessional and getting your sins absolved. It's like, it's a completely different experience mystically and even psychologically. You'll feel the difference. So hopefully one day I'll be praying for you as usual. I'll be praying for you to come into the fullness of the faith and take that plunge. Hopefully you'll get to see for yourself, and then you'll come back and record part 2 and tell us all about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so then who am I to question it, you know?
Yeah, that's it. It's just like little Johnny with his sister, and he asks, "Hey, Mister, what's special about marriage? Why are you talking to me about marriage? I have my sister, and she's a girl. I'm a boy. Like, what's the difference? Like, there's a boy and a girl here, and then man and wife, it's a boy and a girl. What's the difference?" And the man would just say to the child, "Well, just one day you'll fall in love with a woman that's not your sister, and you'll get married, and it's a different thing." It's that kind of level of comparison, because right now you're looking at it like I don't see what the big deal is, but it is a big deal. It's a very big deal. It's a mystical thing, and it's all about the depth of the love and the commitment and these sorts of things. So I don't want to brag too much, but I'll just give you that teaser.
Well, I'm listening. Thank you, David. Do you mind if I turn on this light over here real quick?
Go for it.
It's getting a little dark. Give me 1 minute. Okay. I don't know if that'll help, but yeah, it's dark in here. So.
No, it looks good. It looks good. I'm sure you've seen some of my guests. They look like they're in a closet with the shadows. It's like dark. You've got a nice open space and that Colorado sunshine.
Yeah. Well, if I open that too much more, it's just
You'll be a silhouette. You'll be like a silhouette.
Yes, exactly. So I didn't want that either, but yeah.
So how do you feel about the mother of Jesus? Do you have any affection for Saint Mary?
Yeah. Yeah. And
when did that start? Was that part of the Methodist and Lutheran thing, or is that something you?
Probably not. I feel like it's inherent. I can't tell you why.
Okay.
But I do. Like, I feel it in my heart even as we're talking. It's not made up. It's not learned, I guess, in the sense where I like decided one day. I don't know, David. I can't verbalize it, I guess.
That's nice. Yeah, I don't know if you remember, but I had a mystical dream or vision or whatever where Mary came to me and said I would take her name in my confirmation. So you've been baptized. You haven't been confirmated or confirmed in the Catholic Church, right?
Yeah, that's it. And again, it happened when I was way too young to remember. But yeah, I've never had confirmation.
That's what I did at age 39. And I was nervous. I was when I became a Christian, I was very nervous because I didn't know. It's kind of like sort of like you with looking at the Catholic Church. Like I didn't really know. I didn't really understand. And not only that, but I had an antagonism about towards the church. And it's perfectly natural. I mean, there's a natural component to our antagonism towards Christ and his church. There's also a preternatural demonic dimension to it, to that hatred. But I can sympathize with people that are non-Christian, that look at Christianity, they don't like it, they hate it or whatever. I can sympathize with that because I was there. And it does seem rather bizarre that God would become man and get crucified. And then we have the symbol of his torture and death on our necks and a necklace. And there you got a cross on your wall. And it's like, it is bizarre. I mean, it is bizarre until you enter into Christianity and then you understand what love is. You understand what self-sacrifice is and all these sorts of things. But, yeah, I do remember thinking that I'm going to lose myself if I become a Christian. Like I'm going to become like melted into some cult community, or I'm going to like dissolve my personality and not have any character or anything like that. It's the complete opposite. Not to say that I have like a lot of character and I'm really great personality or anything, but I'm the same guy. I'm the same idiot that I always was. But I had this fear that I was somehow going to become part of the Borg or the hive mind group think and these sorts of things. And that's pretty typical of how atheists, I think about the religious anyway. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's easier. It would make sense that it's easier to not believe in anything, because it takes faith, it takes work to trust that even though something's there that you can't see, it is there. And so it's easier for a lot of people to just go to science, it seems like, or just, but even then, a lot of that is things we can't see. Yeah, it's interesting how easy it is to not believe and then to kind of make up excuses and be like, see, that's why that this happened. So obviously there's no God or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
it's the easy way out, I think. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's a bit cowardly, but to go back to the example of commitment in a relationship. I have friends, I'm sure you have friends too, or you've met people who are commitment phobic. They don't want to commit. Like it's usually men. Usually men, they don't want to commit to the woman. So, to marriage or to anything serious. So, for me, it was the opposite. I wanted to commit, and I did commit to my wife, and we've been together 27 years. So we just celebrated our 10,000 days together. The 10,000 days of marriage a week or two ago, a week ago. But it's more than half my life now that I've been with her. But my point here is that when I got together with Anna, there were naysayers all around. They were saying it's never going to work. Like a lot of people. Why are they giving me this advice? I don't know. But they're telling me it's not going to work, and you're not meant for each other, and you're too different, and it's like unsolicited advice, like from everybody, right? Even, and I've said this before on my podcast, I don't know if you caught it, but even at my wedding, even though it was just a civil marriage in a courtroom, but we had guests there, and one of the guests, right after the ceremony, immediately after the ceremony, when we're shaking hands in the line with everyone, she told me it's not going to work. Like right there, at my wedding. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
So there will be people in your life, your friends, family, whoever, that are going to tell you you're a fool, don't do it, it's not going to work, this is a lie, the Catholic Church is garbage, and they'll have a million good reasons too. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're going to have some pretty good documentation to convince you that you're going the wrong way. But for me, with my wife, another thing I wanted to mention was I'm so happy that I took the plunge. I'm so happy I didn't listen to them. I'm so happy that I worked through all the hard times. After 7 years, it got difficult. From 7 to 14 or whatever, it was really difficult. From years 7 to 14, really difficult. And now I'm like coasting is like easy, and it's not perfect. It's not all sunshines and rainbows, because she hates the Catholic Church to this day. So it's not easy, but it's compared to that period in between, in the 7 to 14 year period, like it's a lot easier than that. And the depth of the love, and just the bond that we have, and all these sorts of things. So there's something to be said for single-mindedness and following your heart, even though your heart, is imperfect and it could lead you astray. But you know the truth, you love the truth, you're going to follow, you're going to seek the truth. And if you can stay in touch with that, don't lose touch with that. Don't listen to every voice around you, even if it's people that you know and that you love, because, maybe I err on the side of individual rights, and I want to be me, and I'm going to do my thing, and I'm not going to listen to my critics. Maybe that's a problem that I have psychologically. But in the case of my religion and my marriage, it's really paid off, because it's just like I ignore all the naysayers, and this is what I am pursuing.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's not easy. It's been very difficult in different ways. Both, my marriage and my religion, it's been difficult. But is it worth it? Absolutely. The best two things about my life.
Yeah.
And it involves commitment and single-mindedness and a willingness to rebuff the challenges, or at least ignore the challenges. And there's so many of them.
Yeah, and that's trust too, I feel like. Absolutely. Trust in God.
Crazy. Did your phone just...
Yeah, it's going off. Sorry, but it's...
Okay. You can respond to it if you need to respond to it.
No. I'm with you, David.
Okay. Not a problem. So, one of the most controversial things, I'm sorry I'm talking so much, I'll let you talk more.
Yeah.
But one of the most controversial things about our church today is Pope Francis. I happen to like him. I happen to love him. I happen to think he's Christian, he's Catholic, whatever. But a lot of naysayers are just, trying to convince me and everyone else that he's the Antichrist and he's the worst thing ever. Do you have an impression, or is he just not on your radar because you're not Catholic? So, who cares?
It's somewhat of the second, but it's still always on my radar. I know how important the popes are. I definitely respect them no matter what.
Yeah.
Of course, I'm not an expert on them, but one thing I do remember is I think something with abortion. I know it's a deep topic, but I think I could be wrong. But again, I don't follow him much, but I thought there was something that happened recently about he said he went back. Oh, well, maybe it's the transgender thing. I don't know. One of the things he went back kind of on, and that confused me a little. But again, not being a Catholic, I feel like I might not have much say.
Can you give me a little bit more of a hint about which way he went? Did he flip flop and then
He
end
was
up?
flip-flopping against, I guess, what would be called the traditional values
Oh, okay.
from what
Okay.
I saw, or maybe that's just how I perceived it. I don't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, the thing about Pope Francis, is, and I'm not an expert either, okay? And I'm not watching with laser focus like every move he makes. I trust Christ and his church, and I give the benefit of the doubt to whoever is Pope. And I happen to have good chemistry. Like with me, it's about chemistry. Like I look at the face, I feel like there's attraction or repulsion. That's it. It's like I'm attracted or I'm repulsed. That's it. So, and I don't just conclude that I'm absolutely right. Like someone could fool me. Like an axe murderer could be the most beautiful, charming man ever, but he's going to kill me and my family because I just had good chemistry with him, right? So I can be fooled by chemistry. But my point is I tend to go with the chemistry. And if someone's coming, someone wants to date my niece and he gives me really bad vibes and he looks sketchy and I don't like his face, I'm pretty much going to intervene and say, well, I might be wrong, but I got bad vibes about this guy. I don't want you going on a date with him.
Yeah.
So my point is my gut could be wrong. My gut could be wrong, but I still listen to my gut. And it's the same thing with Pope Francis. My gut tells me he's a good guy. He's a sweet old man. He's a Christian. He loves God. He's serving God. He's he's got the highest office in the universe. And if he's too soft on sinners, to me, it's just God being gentle. That's it. It's just God being gentle. And if Pope Francis is really lenient on homosexuals or divorced and remarried or whatever, or people that have had abortions or whatever, it's like that's just God being gentle. I think maybe I'm wrong, but the truth is still the truth. It's still wrong to kill the baby in the womb. It's still wrong to have sexual acts outside of marriage. It's still wrong. But God is still loving and gentle to these sinners. Like, I mean, so I can justify anything that Pope Francis does. It's like I always say, my judgment is fallible. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I like to give the benefit of the doubt. And at the end of the day, I'm not worried about it because I'm not going to judge Pope Francis. God's going to judge Pope Francis, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I want to clarify too. I mean, I'm not making judgments either. That was just one thing that I had noticed a while back, but it's not my place to judge him, to decide what little old me. So,
Exactly. Yeah. But I'm sure you've seen how the rad trads, the conservative Catholics are bashing the Pope all the time and giving him the worst possible interpretation of everything that he ever said or did. And that, to me, that's just not Christian. It's just not a Christian way to treat a nice old man. What I mean?
Yeah, agreed.
We used to respect our elders back in the good old days. I don't know about today, but and now that I'm an elder, I'm 53. I want people to respect their elders.
Yeah, it's traditional. Just basic values. So
Yeah. Well, you did mention early on that your parents have like conservative values and stuff like that. Are you uh okay, you said you're from Colorado. That's like sort of like that's close to California, right? Are you not too
kind
far?
of,
You're not too far?
yeah.
Is there any state in between you and California?
Nevada,
Okay.
maybe. I don't know. Again,
Are you West
it
Coast?
was a long time ago,
Are
but
you West Coast vibes?
and no,
No.
probably not.
No
I don't know.
no valley girl stuff, no
I
beaches.
used to be in high school. I used to say like a lot, but I trained myself out of that for sure. It would be like every other like sentence, and I just realized that's like not conducive to genuine conversations.
That's cute. But I can't remember why I was talking about the West Coast, but
Maybe I don't know. I don't
oh
want to
yeah,
go out
yeah,
on
oh yeah, yeah. No, because
politics.
I thought your parents should have been like from the deep south or something to have these values of conservative values or something.
No, I mean they're not extreme. It's just they definitely worked for for what they had. The house I grew up in, I mean it wasn't bad, and they worked for that. They weren't handed anything. They weren't, they didn't get it from their parents or anything. I think they definitely worked for it, and so they always made sure to instill those values on me.
Salt of
You
the
know,
earth types. Yeah, yeah, salt of
yeah.
the earth. So you never told me, unless I missed it, what your sort of ethnic background is. Did you know? Do you know?
I haven't taken a DNA test or anything like that, but from what my parents have told me, I'm really heavily German and I
Ah,
think Polish, I want to say.
wow. Ah,
But yeah, definitely heavily German.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
You're part of the master race.
I guess.
I'm kidding.
I don't know.
I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm just part of one race, David.
The human race. Yeah.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. So what do you make of all I don't want to dwell too long on the politics, but what do you make of the whole left-right thing in the States? Because I'm up in Canada, as you know, it's a different sort of vibe up here, very liberal up here. But when it comes to the left versus the right down in the States, it's like a national sport or something. But
Yeah.
do you get involved?
I try not to. Of course, I do have my beliefs, and I probably focus sometimes more on the left versus the right. I, again, am conservative. I know we're on the internet and it's kind of, don't want to say too much here, but I had a period in growing up in high school where I was like, I'm totally liberal, I was like, and I think I was doing it just to kind of go against my parents. But I tried to like support those beliefs and it just wasn't for me. I'm not saying one's better than the other, that I'm right and the other side's wrong, but I just think for sustainability, there's, yeah, it's easier for me to be conservative because it's not, I guess, sustainable to depend so heavily on the government to provide you with everything. The government should be there for sure, but it's not our provider, the sole person to look up to. I think, I don't know what you would call it, capitalism, I guess, even though that's seen as such a horrible thing, to the younger generation, it's made
Yeah.
our country what it is. So
Yeah. Well, the nanny state kind of vibe is, and the whole top-down governance. I certainly don't want to talk. I'm just coming off a 1 week ban on YouTube for talking about
oh
the
yeah, no,
past
no,
3 years. So we're not going to talk about that because
no,
I
not
just
it.
got banned. I just got banned. So it's like we're living in very strange time. We're living in very, very strange times where we're blessed with this wonderful internet, but it's also a minefield because there's so many hateful, angry people on there. There's pornography on there. There's misinformation on there. There's propaganda on there. And there are people trying to control you. And, they're free to do that. They've got their platform. Like, I love YouTube. I love YouTube. And I try to stay on there. Like, I'm trying to stay on YouTube because I like it. So I got to try to be a good boy and not be so rebellious.
I know, I get it. And again, I'm not trying to go on here and claim something so that it's on,
Yeah.
on the record forever, which is kind of sad, but we could talk about the weather too. It's great here in Colorado lately. So,
Yeah, that's a safe topic. But yeah, so it's all connected. It's all connected. It's all connected to truth and the battle between the spiritual battle between the good guys and the bad guys, and we're just happy. You and I are happy because we choose God and we're on the good guys team. And the battle that we're in is messy and it's ugly, and part of every war is deception. Now, God does not deceive, but Satan does deceive. What's your relationship like with Satan? I was a Satanist, but I was an atheistic Satanist. I didn't believe in Satan when I was a Satanist. What's your relationship with the demons? Do they hound you? Do they give you dirty dreams like they do to me?
well, back when I was heavily studying religion, and I was probably making some bad choices. We won't get into that. I kind of went into like a psychosis, you would say, briefly. I'm very grateful that it wasn't like a lasting thing, or because I would say that that's almost like a demon. I mean, it was deep. A lot of the things that my mind would think, that just wasn't. It's hard to describe, but to me, that's almost like demons. Satan. I don't know. And it took a lot of, I don't know what it took really, but just not focusing on it, not giving into that. Yeah.
Are you secure that you know what your tools are in the battle? Like, you said you've been neglecting your prayer. You're not really doing a lot of prayer. That's a big tool against, to keep the demons away. And, for me, from my Catholic perspective, the demons are very real. And, Satan is the head of the demons, and he was the highest angel, and he fell, and he's very crafty and intelligent, and he wants my soul. He wants your soul. So from my Catholic perspective, it's like I've got prayer, I've got the sacraments, reconciliation and confession, and the Eucharist to strengthen me, and different sacraments like that. And even my marriage, the sacrament of marriage, even though I was married in front of a judge, it's still considered a marriage by the church. And it's not a perfect marriage. It's an irregular marriage, but it's still a marriage. So there are graces that come to me from that. And so all of this to say that we have all of this stuff that can help us in the spiritual battle. Do you believe literally that Satan was the highest angel and that he fell and that a third of the angels fell with him? Do you believe that Christian story literally, or do you see it more in a different way?
That's a hard question. To be honest. I don't know.
You're not sure?
I'm not sure, but I do know, things like Romans 8:31 definitely helps me. If God is for us, who can be against us? And that strengthens me. I don't know. Maybe the reason I chose today and found the confidence, I guess, to get on here was not the confidence, but just, follow through to be on here today with you, was maybe to strengthen my own prayer life or something, David.
Yeah. I would say that it's very, very, very important. Probably the most important thing. Like, if there's one thing you take away from this talk today, and hopefully we'll be back for more talks, the one thing I think is the most important thing to take away is to arm yourself in the spiritual battle with prayer. And I always talk about the 4 types of prayer, where you give thanks, you ask for help, you say that you're sorry, and what's the other one? Thank you. Oh yeah, I love you.
Yeah.
So that's the best one.
Yeah.
But what I really want for you is to have more and more clarity about the spiritual battle that you're part of. And I want you to understand that it's a dangerous battle, and that your soul is on the line, and that it's, you're on the, like I said just before, you're on the good team, you're with God, and you want to go to God. And that mystical vision or dream that you had about the black curtain and the bed and whatever, and wanting to go up, you're made for heaven. You are made for heaven. You're made by God, for God, and that's your destiny. That's your destiny. But you have enemies that are very real. Satan and his demons are very real, and they want to sabotage your journey. They want your soul. And it's up to you. I mean, it really is up to you. And it's not, in one way, it's not that difficult. You just need to give yourself to God completely and forget about yourself and your selfish needs, and to serve your brothers and sisters. And so, it's not complicated, but it's really, really hard, I guess, to do it. Just like relationships. Like relationships, it's easy, but it's hard. It's like all you're doing is giving yourself entirely selfless service to this person, but actually it's hard. It's hard to do that. You know what I mean? So it's easy, it's simple. It's simple to describe it, but it's kind of hard to do it. And but it's fun. Like I just talked about my 27 years of marriage, like they're really hard parts, but I'm so happy to have gone through it. And same thing with your marriage to Christ. It's like it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely so much worth it. And the outcome of heaven compared to the outcome of hell is so dramatic. I mean, that's all you need. That's all you need to motivate you to stay on fire. I always use that image, of the little spark of faith. I have this little spark, and I hope it can become a big fire that consumes the world. And that's what Jesus said. He wishes he could set the world on fire with love. And so that's what it's all about for me.
Yeah, I like it. I definitely like it.
My friend Daniel Drazinovich is in the live chat. You may have seen a couple of his episodes. He says, Rabbi told me Satan is an angel, which means messenger. That's correct. And only does what God tells him. Do you agree? Yes. Yes, Satan. All of the angels are messengers. Angel is their office, and spirit is their substance. So the angel part is their messengers of God, and the bad angels, the fallen angels, they're only permitted to do what God permits them to do. They're not getting away with anything. They would like to do a lot more damage, but they're only allowed to do what God allows them to do. So that's my perspective. I'd like to hear now your perspective, Em, for the same question about the angels. Are they doing what God allows them, or how do you see them?
Well, if you think about it, I mean, God created everything, right? The world, created us. Therefore, he must have created angels. So, yeah, it would make sense that whether it's a fallen angel, a blessed angel, they really only have God can only command them. I mean, they can never be greater than God in that sense. So, yeah.
They want to, the good angels want to do God's positive will, and the bad angels, they don't want to do God's positive will. They want to do damage, but they have to go and get permission from God to do any of their, like in the book of Job, where they go and they tempt Job, they have God's permission to do that. But if God were to give them free reign, they would just totally slaughter us all with their malevolence and their hateful lies and these sorts of things. So we're just getting a little taste of their malevolence here, just a little taste of how much they hate us, and we don't even really feel it. We don't feel the hatred of Satan here. What we feel from Satan is a little encouragement, like, oh, go ahead and do the little sin. It's not a big deal. God loves you. That's what we get from Satan. That's all we're getting from Satan. And then once we do the sin, then we get a little bit of negativity from Satan, where he says, well, you're screwed now. You're not a Christian. Look what you just did.
Yeah, it brings on the guilt,
brings on the guilt. Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's just a little taste. And once he's got you in his clutches in hell, it's going to be no laughing matter, that's for sure. But all of this to say that Satan and his demons, they do want your soul, but they're working within very, very tight constraints because of God's goodness, and he really cares for us. And some of the atheists will laugh at us, us Christians, for this perspective that we have, for these teachings, because they don't understand why God just doesn't wipe out the bad, all evil, and why does God allow little children to get cancer and suffer and these sorts of things. They don't understand. They think that that's not a good God, because a good God's all powerful. He can just make all the problems go away. But I hope you understand, yourself, the key here is that we have to love God. If we're going to love God, we have to love God truly and deeply in a meaningful way and in a way that is free. And so all of the sufferings that you went through, you could, if you listen to the demons, you could get angry with God, you could blame God, and you could say, God, you're all powerful. You didn't need to allow me to go through all that suffering. But you know that your love is tested by the suffering. Absolutely. You know that for sure. The same way that my wife knows that I really do love her. Why? Because I suffered. I suffered for her. And this is not to say that we go out of our way to suffer. We don't go out of our way to suffer. We try to avoid suffering. But believe me, the suffering is there. There's plenty of suffering that's going to come around. So you just try to deal with it and accept it. The suffering that you can't avoid, you try to get through it. And then your spouse knows you love him, or your God knows that you love him. So
yeah,
it's very mysterious.
Well, I can't speculate, but I would imagine if I wouldn't have gone through the trials that I've been through in my life, I might not be as deeply in love with God. You know, it probably wouldn't be on the forefront of my mind as much as it is today.
For sure.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, and you know, you've said it before. But we'll say it again. Why not? Because we can't say it enough. That I do believe that God, you know, the presence of negative things almost proves that God exists. There's a verse in the Bible, of course, I can't quote right to it now, but something about how, you know, bugs, you know, when you see bugs, you'll know that that's where God is not, I guess, in a city. I can't think of it exactly, but to me, that reminds me of how, you know, we wouldn't know good. We wouldn't know what good is. So the people saying, you know, why do you let bad things happen? They do experience good things, but we wouldn't know what good is if we don't know evil. Well, if we don't know hard times, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah, the lack of good. We appreciate. I guess one of the key words here is appreciation, like just appreciating what you have, having gratitude and these sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And if you were into, I guess you were into some sort of new age stuff at some point. Is that what you said?
I was, yeah. The Law of One. I can think of some other ones. I don't know if you've heard of them, but definitely, it's comforting. You know, I won't lie. I still do maybe read my horoscope every so often. I try not to do it as much, but you know, tarot cards, all that. But it's not, you know, it doesn't feel, that can't be the answer to everything. It's just, you know, chance and coincidence.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was deep into the occult and the new age, and traveling around reading tarot as that was my job. That was my only source of income, you know.
Oh, wow.
So I did that on my honeymoon, you know, for like my honeymoon was like a year and a half long, just traveling in Europe and reading tarot. And that's not the only thing I did. Also, we got jobs when we settle in a town. We would get a job, but you know, there is a lot of truth and goodness in every worldview, and there's, you know, nobody would buy it if it was just a bunch of garbage. Like, no one's going to buy a bunch of garbage. They need to hear about the truth. They need to hear about love. They need to hear about happiness. They need to hear about gratitude. There's all the, you know, every worldview, no matter how demonic, is going to offer us something that we can grab a hold of, something that we want, something that fulfills our human nature. Like that, it's going to be a non-starter. If it's like, oh, here's my worldview, it's just a big pile of crap. Do you want some? No, I don't. Right?
Yeah.
It has to be something that is godly. It has to be something that's good and godly for people to gravitate towards it. So what's the most silly and ridiculous religion? Like, is it Scientology? That's the one I always go to. But no offense to the Scientologists. But there's lots of good stuff and lots of truth in Scientology, because otherwise people aren't going to latch onto it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, I honestly don't know if it's a religion. I don't know what it is, but what Morgue does. I followed that for a little bit, but it seems like his one job, what he's trying to do is disprove God, disprove the Bible. I mean, that's might not be a religion in itself, but basically telling people that you are God. This is all gobbledygook, but I'll use the examples of what I'm saying is gobbledygook for why it doesn't make sense. Like, I think that's the biggest, the worst thing. I don't know.
I think he calls his stuff Hyperianism.
Hyperianism. That's, yeah, of course. And I did buy, I actually did buy some books on it, but it's supposedly a mathematical worldview. Everything's all mathematically created. But yet also disproving God. Going out of his way too.
Did I ask Diabolically Informative about Hyperianism? Do you remember?
You did. I do remember you did. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think he said something about how it started as a joke years ago. So, but he has followers now. I mean, he has people on Facebook or wherever that are eating that up. And I think it's sad to see.
Yeah. Well, he's got the package where he looks like a circus freak, and that's attractive. And then he seems rebellious, and that's cool. And he wears makeup, and that's cool. And he's free thinker, and mathematics is cool, and Euler's theorem, and mathematical universe, and it's all like cool stuff, and it's rational, and allegedly they're trying to pretend like it's rational, but
reason and logic are the main things there. And when I first found out about it, I almost wanted it to be, I still secretly hope that it's like some kind of devil's advocate way of, forgive my lack of, forgive that fear, that, to say devil's advocate, but I thought maybe almost it was a way of like showing that God is real, in a way through his theories. I don't know. It's interesting.
I see.
I would hope, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, there is, that's part of the allure of these mystery schools or whatever they are. Like, someone comes along with this Hyperianism, and you think, oh, does he have the truth? But everyone in their heart, they're thinking about God. Like, they don't want to use that word because they're not, they're shy to use that word, but they're looking for God. Oh, could it be that the God that I imagine, the God that I want to be God, the way that I want God to be, am I going to find it finally? There's this guy offering it to me. Let me look into it. Let me buy the books. Let me investigate it. Could it be that he's going to satisfy what I want? Like, because often what we want is not what we need, and we want to have license to sin, and we want to be able to cater to our own needs, and we want to be able to be lazy and selfish and everything. At least that's what I want. But and so we want to make God in our own image. Like Jesus says in the Bible, it's like their belly is their God. Like they just want to feed themselves. And I think about that all the time, especially during Lent. I'm supposed to be like controlling my appetites during Lent, and I cheated yesterday because it was my birthday, and I cheated last week because it was my anniversary, my 10,000 day anniversary, and I always find a reason to cheat, right? But my belly's my God. Like, I mean, I think about that most of the time when I'm eating. It's like I'm just like a pig, But it's because pleasure is good. Like, God knows that we need food, and He's happy that we take enjoyment from food, but He doesn't want us to worship food or to put the creature above the creator. That's all, Yeah. So we just need that proper perspective on it.
Yeah, some spirituality, where it's like you align your chakras, and you believe in the spirit. It's something, but it's not the spirit of God. It's spirit, and you attune yourself and you create your reality. manifestation, things like that. It sounds great. It might feel good for a little bit, but it doesn't account for when things go wrong. You can't look
Well,
towards.
it's your fault. It's your fault because you didn't manifest.
Right, exactly. Right? That's what it is. It's not like, oh, I didn't tune myself well enough or something. Like, it just never goes down to that. It goes, well, yes, I'm perfectly aligned with my spiritual, but if you were to be more aligned, this wouldn't have happened. So that leaves you feeling empty. I mean, that's never a good way. Me personally, I guess I'll talk for myself, but yeah, that doesn't explain bad times and negativity. It's really interesting. I think the only thing that makes sense for me is God. I mean, there's something out there, and I could say it's this spirit. I could give it whatever name, but it's God, hands down.
Absolutely. So it's an exciting adventure, and I'm excited to see where you're going to go next. And I'll be praying for you, and I'll be looking forward to part 2 when you come back again to tell us more about your journey. And I would just ask you as your homework to pray a little bit more. And one of the reasons I want you to pray more, I want you to pray for me more. So.
Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Thank you so very much, David. I needed this, so thank you.
Thanks for taking the time. And I've got another guest lined up. I'm going to do him at, I think it's at 5 or 6. I'm sorry, I messed up the time with you. I thought it was 2.
You're fine.
I thought it was 2 and it turned out to be 3, but my eyes must be going because I swear I thought it said 2 on my calendar. But,
okay.
But we made it happen. It took a while, but we made it happen.
It's been years in the making, and I will admit most of it was my hesitation on my part, but I'm so glad I finally just jumped in and humbled myself and showed up, because that's all you can do. So
excellent. I hope you come back again. You'll be a regular, and you'll
I hope
enlighten us with your thoughts process and your wisdom. Okay.
All right. Thank you, David.
I love you lots, and thanks for all your support over the years, and God bless you, and please remember me and mine in your prayers, okay?
Of course.
We'll talk soon.
Yep.
Take good care. Bye.